Well, today's podcast is just me and me. And Kyle. Actually, today is the first of many podcasts. That's right. We're going to do something a little different. And then after that, we're going to do something a little different after that. And after that, we're going to do something a little different. Here's the deal, kiddies. I'm so glad that you're part of our community, podcasting in from Dawn Patrol. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from it. It's a joy just to get to know each other. It's a joy just to recap Dawn Patrol. A lot of you guys are traveling, not making it, can't make it, moved, or you made it and you just want to go and meet a guy and kind of get a different angle on the morning's topic. But over the next, what do you think, Kyle? Month? Maybe the next month, 4 to 6 podcasts, we're going to do a little something called Finding Dad. Now, maybe a lot of you guys know I'm in the middle of a project called Finding Dad. We're writing a book on this life of Jacob and Esau and the life of Mark and Art Campbell and the prodigal son story. Kind of a 3-way weave of how to live in a blessing when you didn't receive a blessing from dad and then give a blessing as you become a dad. The tension involved in father-son relationships. The tension of good father-son relationships and the tension of fathers that are unavailable or not present or not even in existence. And so kind of the father-son journey called Finding Dad. As many of you know, I really wrestled throughout my life with the relationship I had with my dad, who passed a year and a half ago now, while we were doing a men's retreat. Kind of an amazing day. Kyle, you were there with me. And kind of a close to 53 years of hardships. All the while trying to raise a son, a daughter, a kid, and give a blessing that I never received. And so it's turned into quite a little project. And it includes a bunch of podcasts that I've made already and a little short film. I don't know, what do you call it, Kyle? A vignette? What do you call it? Like a 4, 5, 7, 8-minute trailer on the project, the book. And again, story of Jacob and Esau. Jacob had to swindle his way into a blessing, and then at the end, not the end of his life, but when he was wrestling with the angel all night long, he still didn't feel like he had a blessing because he kind of coerced his dad into giving a chump change one and swindled his brother out of the blessing and the inheritance, and the whole thing was kind of a mess, and I was kind of a Jacob. And then I had to wrestle with the Creator in a deep way and realize that He's the only one that can really give a blessing. And until we get right in that relationship, we do not have what it takes to give a blessing. So that's the Reader's Digest. So now you don't need to watch the film. You don't need to buy the book. You don't need to listen to the podcast. I'm just kidding. But along the way, I've met these great men who have wrestled deeply with either their father or being a father. And so we're going to release 2 or 3 of those podcasts and segments. One of them is with a guy who we just listened to a song, Brian Bent. Brian Bent lost his son, who he was very close to, when Cole was, I think, 22 years old. And Brian never really knew his dad. And so here he has his father-son relationship finally. And the Lord took Cole early. And really powerful time and season in Brian's life. So I was able to sit down in his art studio in Costa Mesa. No, San Clemente. Is it San Clemente? Ortega Highway. Yeah, San Clemente. And make a podcast on Brian's life, his art, his surfing, his influence, his father, and his son. And so it's a really neat little Dawn Patrol-esque thing, and Kyle's going to clip that thing up. I think it runs for an hour, probably going to put 20 minutes, or he'll do natural breaks in that podcast. Brian's an interesting guy. He's part of our community. He is a follower, planted a church in a pizza parlor called the Hot Rod Church for sinners, and really has become kind of a surf icon and is one of the most godly men that I've had the privilege of knowing. And then another one is with J.J. Wessels. J.J. Wessels actually came to faith in Brian Bent's youth group and is now never was close to his dad. And then he has quite the dad story where he is now nursing a dad that he wasn't really close to into the final stages of his dad's life. Made that podcast in a van at San Onofre, draped with beach towels. It was just really fun. Both these men have been through a lot with Dad. And so with that, just wanted to give a little setup. I hope you enjoy them. If you don't, that's okay. Just email me direct at pastorlarry@the3crosses.org. Let me know. No, I'm just kidding. You got to enjoy them. You're going to meet these gentlemen too, because they're part of our community. And either on this side of eternity or when we get to the Father's table, we will meet JJ and Brian, and you will have known them better because of these 2 podcasts, or 6, or however we're going to do it. Love you guys. Be at Dawn Patrol next Wednesday, 6 a.m., or Death Patrol tonight, 6:30 p.m. And enjoy these little clips. Well, I can't believe on my 4th ever podcast that we have the writer, the recorder, the musician behind this awesome cut, the one, the only, Brian Bent, with us in the Pseudo recording studio that happens to be his home and art studio. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing good.
What a privilege it is to have you here on the first ever Finding Dad and Tribal Way podcast combined. And we're going to share it with the Dawn Patrol guys, which makes it a trifecta.
Cool.
And one of my goals in these podcasts are to find a way to use the word trifecta, and I just did it right out of the chute, so there we go.
Yeah. Whatever trifecta means.
I think it's something that 3 things are happening at once, or 3 things are going to happen. And so what an awesome thing to have you here, or me being in your home and recording this. As I said, I open up each morning in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 23 verse 1 today says, know who you're sitting with, imagine this, and why you're sitting with them.
Yeah.
Proverbs 23:1 in a translation called The Voice. And so who is Brian Bent? In your own sentence, your own phrase, because I'm going to try to sum you up, but who does Brian say he is?
A total ham.
A ham.
A ham sandwich.
A ham sandwich.
Yeah. I'm a showman. Always wanted to be cool, and I'm a lot of things now. It's the older you get, the more things you get to become. So.
Right.
But I've always wanted to skateboard, wanted to flow, wanted to have fun, and wanted to share it with people, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You were just featured in Surfer's Journal, which is a monthly or by 6 times a year.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something like that.
It's the best surf magazine journal. What do they call it? They don't even call it a magazine. They call it a
yeah, it's
publication.
Yeah, Scott likes to think out of the box. He likes all aspects of everything, and so it's really kind of a modern day, like almost like a historic Renaissance kind of, or just everything what it is kind of magazine.
And they just did a 14-page spread on you, amazing. But they summed you up as a surfer, an artist, a wrench. What?
Oh, wrenches. It's kind of like, I just met Paul Simon on like the bass player for the Clash, and he actually, it's funny, here's the wooden trio. He, on my jacket, I wanted him to draw something because he ended up coming to the car show the next day after I met him the night before in this big like garage from like the early teens, and I asked him if he'd draw something on my leather jacket, and he ended up drawing a spanner, which is a wrench. So it's just kind of a thing, like you work on cars and work on whatever.
We used to call them motorheads. Mechanics. I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are a artist. You are a surfboard shaper. Used to be?
No, I never shaped surfboards. No? I just build kook boxes, which is kind of like building a small craft more than a surfboard. I mean,
I thought you shaped for Walden. I know you surfed for him.
No, I surfed for him. No, I never shaped. Okay. I don't shape. I don't pinstripe. Really, I just never picked it up.
Okay.
Both those things,
See, so this is it. I'm learning.
Yeah.
So kook box builder.
Yeah.
musician, songwriter. A lot of people don't realize you write most of your stuff.
Yeah, because when I gave my music to the Lord, I would do covers or write my own songs because I just thought I had something to say. Mm-hmm. I used to write songs like "Your Sister's a Witch Doctor." Now I'm writing like "Me and My Lord, My Hot Rod Ford."
Your sister's a witch doctor.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just I had
that's fun.
I think I had a thing called the Mystic Skull by Ideal. It was a game. I was into tikis and all that. Just weird stuff.
Yeah, fun. Car enthusiast, car builder, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, got into car building through the Hot Rod Church as a mascot for the church, and totally got into open-wheeled roadster, so I just continued on.
Continue that. And so you just kind of pursue what you're into.
Yeah.
Designer, I would call you a designer, and I would call you a fashion student. You sew. We're sitting here with sewing machines and amongst piles of clothes.
Well, I used to make stuff that I couldn't find, or like my uncle was a pro surfer in the late 70s, early 80s, Rocky Sabo, and like he would give me these patches like Pepsi, and so I was like, at the time, skateboarding, the Pepsi team was like so I would sew this on my jacket, and I thought I felt connected or felt cool, or maybe I would lie and say I was on the Pepsi team or whatever,
Sure.
when I was young, and put it on my windbreaker and then bomb hills, my skateboard. So like, I always wanted to be something that now it seems like the Lord's given me all these desires of my heart, being in all this stuff, but it's under a new banner. It's not like a me, I'm cool or whatever. It's actually, it's funny like how things just come out of you, and
for the joy of living.
Yeah, for the joy of living, and for the and for the stoke of, I don't know, of showing off, but not in an egotistical way, just as a fun way, fun way. So.
Sure. Car, paint, fashion, design. You did actually remodeling for the Becker storefronts. Is that right?
Well, everything for them for 20 years.
For 20 retail.
I started out just working, redoing the display. I was just selling surfboards and clothing. For all the Becker stores, and painting on skateboards and stuff like that. But when I came back, I took a year off to go in with another surf shop in San Clemente, and then I came back and started working in the display. The display lady would come in only once a month, and so I started, when somebody wanted something off the wall, I would, put it back up there and stuff, and because I just didn't want to sit around and I wanted to be active. That's the kind of person I am. So I just started working into display, and pretty soon I'd start. It'd go, and then I'd apply the art to it, and then I eventually would apply the fixtures to it, and then as the chain was growing or whatever, I would grow with them, and that's what I did for years. Yeah,
and that's where you got a lot of your design sense and space and.
Well, I got to develop a style because pretty soon I ran out of props, and so I wanted to decorate the stores. Well, I started painting my own props and making my own props that went along with either POP from other companies or, or. We just wanted the owner just wanted his stores to be different, and it was a perfect match because I was different, I guess, because, well, and at the same time, now that I've learned in history, you had, Schroff, Steve Jones, you had Mike Muir, like different people in the surf industry doing stuff for other companies, and I was just doing it for Becker, and so it was kind of a neat opportunity during the early 90s all the way through into the 2000s of making stores really individual, so.
Then I just learned how you've been married to Rivka, went to Hayward High, my alma mater, for 2 years. I went for, 5 to 6 years.
Well, yeah, her and her mom and I think her brother and sister, they moved down to Dana Point, and so I met her in a 50s diner, and from the moment I was just going in this place, because it was in between where I worked in San Clemente and where I lived in Dana Point, and I just saw her pass. I was eating a burger and malt, and listening to Dion and the Bellmounts or whatever, and here she comes walking right past me, and it was like, I don't know, I don't know what the right word is, but it was just, I was like, whoa, there she is, or they're like, wow, like it was captivating. And I remember these guys kind of messing with her, at the booth over here, behind me. And, I thought I was like a Fonzie or Mr. Cool or whatever, and, or whatever, not banging on Fonzie, but I was just like, hey, I thought to myself, leave that girl alone, so at that very time, like, I just thought she was special.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we kept bumping into each other, and our surf band played at the 50s diner where she worked, and she happened to be on that night, and then we bumped into each other again, and pretty soon I had a little 64 Renault that was like Caterpillar green, and she saw it, and she came out just waving because she was so sweet, you know, and I asked her what time she got off, and anyway, so
that was the first move. The first line was what time?
No, it wasn't no line. I just asked her what time she got off. I'll see if she wanted to
hang out,
say hi or whatever. Right. I didn't even think twice, and then I came back at that time, and I said, hey, we can go into the movies, and she said sure, and so we went to the movies, and we saw Beetlejuice. That was right when Beetlejuice was out.
Okay.
So, which is funny because I'm still into I saw that movie just recently, and I hadn't seen it since '88, so it was pretty funny. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, and now we go full circle. Married how many years now?
Since 1990, let's say 28.
28 years. 28. And daughter Esther, and son Cole. We'll talk about him a little later.
Yeah.
And he was born her
20th year she got married, then she got pregnant, and her dad died all in her 20th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
really neat lady, neat guy. We could sit here and talk all day about what you're into, and now you're a history buff and you're learning from history. You're so excited. We had breakfast, and just you're a consummate student. I think that's
everything I get into, I read a little bit about. Mm-hmm. It used to be through books, and now with the internet. And actually, I got to take a break because I try not to be on it. So there's just so much information about everything that you're into. So information age or whatever they call it.
Yeah. So Proverbs 23 says, know who you're sitting with and why you're sitting with them, what you're doing. We're making two little topics we want to cover here. One is, I told you briefly about this thing that I'm doing, this project that I'm doing called the Tribal Way. Mm-hmm. I believe from Abraham on, chapter 12 in Genesis, God says to Abraham, I'm going to do something special through you. I'm going to make you a new nation, a new people, and this nation, this people, will exist to bless other nations. First time in history where the nation existed not for the success of that nation to dominate other tribes, but to invite a community together to be a blessing to other nations. And, that got wobbly all through the Old Testament. Jesus hits the scene and then re-picks up that mantle and literally starts to invite the whole world into this new covenant, this new relationship, and this new tribe. And then 300 years later, after the resurrection, we get into religion, and it gets a little wobbly a little bit. Things start going off the tracks a little bit. And I just really, really sense God's heart always wanting to invite people into his tribe, to bless them so that they can turn around full of his Holy Spirit and bless other tribes and nations. Jesus says to his best friends, I want you to do that through this thing called discipleship. Engage, Matthew 28, go, and as you go, make disciples, win people into your community, influence them, bring them into your tribe, and then just through the joy of living, like what you do, encourage them, teach them what I've taught you, and know that through this you can't fail.
Yeah.
First time I saw you, I was with my 11-year-old son and my 13-year-old daughter at Sano, and we called you the captain.
Oh, yeah, because I wear hats.
You wore the hat, captain hat, and you were surfing what I didn't know was a kook box.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it was a kook box then. This was...
No, it might have been another board. I don't know. Yeah. I started riding them in 2007.
So it was another board.
Yeah.
Because this... No, it might have been because my son's 22.
Well, I still ride some of the retro longboards and stuff too, yeah.
So we see you don't fall off. You don't get your sweater. I remember you were in a big
wool sweater. Yeah, then I was probably riding it. Who knows?
Yeah, and you had striped shorts on and the hat on, and I just went, this brother not only doesn't fall off the board, he doesn't even get wet.
Well, it's like Waikiki, 1930s Waikiki Beach Boys meets punk rock,
Yeah. And we just went, what the heck is
I don't like to get wet.
What kind of surfer doesn't like to get wet?
I just don't. I don't know why. I don't know. In the 80s when I was into rockabilly, I remember duck diving under... I had my hair all pomped, and you'd duck dive under and get all the Aquanet and the dippity-doo in your eyes, and stuff. But I just don't, and I don't like, I have to surf big waves sometimes because when I was surfing contests, but I don't even like, I like everything kind of like flowy and like head high and under, if I don't have to get wet, it's very rare. It's like me like swimming in my own pool. It's very rare, but like I love looking at it, So I'd rather just pose on the top of a surfboard and look like a ham, than a wet cat.
Well, it's something to see. It is something to watch. It's the fluidity. And Surfer's Journal picked up on something, and I underlined it in the magazine, and I thought, this is really rich. I might do a whole series behind it. You said that you love kook boxes and you love open wheel cars from the 30s and the 40s because it's easier to get into trim.
Yeah.
You surf fast and you want to be in trim. What does that mean? In trim. When you talk about life, start with the surfing metaphor, but then how do you find your
if you
trim?
look anybody that's from Jay Adams to anybody that has a trim Dora, I just recently kind of got into like watching Phil Edwards surf. I always liked the way Mickey Dora surfed, and he was always trimming and flowing and going forward and really kind of, and then you had, I forgot what his name was from the 70s, but Jay Adams was like that as well, but a lot of style and a lot of flow. So, that's what I always like to do.
For non-surfing people listening to the podcast, flow would be the movement up and down the face of a wave with style.
Or going straight and stop with style, flow can be like the Olympics, like watching the skaters, the either the couples or the single, it's
in their zone.
Yeah, they're in their zone, and they're flowing, and it's kind of a special thing.
A space.
Yeah.
And so you get into that in surfing, in your car building, but cars. In life, when do you say like you're in trim in life?
Always. I honestly think, I think the Lord wants us to be in a flow. I think the world tries to get us all jacked up all the time. Excuse my frankness, but yeah, no, the flow is, we're our body, our blood flows, our breathing flows, our love flows, flow like a river, all that stuff, and the stuff that's agitated, the battles and the stopping and the harshness and all that. That's the stuff, or the wipeout, or the crass, yelling. That's not a flow, and so I think we always want to get back to a flowing music, I think my painting or punk rock has a beat, but it's making a statement. My paintings now are flowing with colors and stuff, but a lot of times I really loved to flow, so it came through me, but a lot of the stuff is very, I don't view myself as an artist as much as a concept person, just trying to show people what I like and express myself on the canvas about that, what I like. So
Yep. And that's how I see you fitting into Matthew 28:18 sincerely, is you cause people to lean in. You are living for the joy of living. You do love the Lord. I've never heard you preach the Lord. I've never heard you talk. I've never heard you not talk about the Lord, but I've never heard you talk directly about the Lord. Does that make sense?
Well, I've had psychosomatic, I've had eating disorders, I've had out of body, it felt like it. Like, I've been a mess. I've been a holy, or not holy, unholy, whatever you want to call it. I've been a mess, a wreck. I've been shaking on the floor. I've been filled with anxiety. I've been, panic attacks since I was young. I had, it's just I'm affected by like horrible movies that came out of the 70s that were those psycho movies. I don't know. Just I've been a mess, and so the Lord has always freed me out of that. Then I never wanted to go back to that, so I got kind of legalistic for a while, and then I had to battle that, and it's like, we're not going to do anything on Sunday. Just sit here. I was always a kind of a mess, and I felt a lot of times my family was protected from, I'd have voices in my head and stuff like that. So what you're seeing now is nothing from me, and I don't even want to try to figure it out, because I'm just thankful for God's peace and that how much He loves me, and I just kind of take one day at a time. And that's why I don't try anything, and I don't look down on anybody that tries to preach or tries to teach or tries. I learn from the teachers.
Sure.
And I've also learned that I'm who I am and what I do. So I never go out. I try to make something really cool for people to look at. That's kind of what I do.
Right.
And I share the Lord all the time, and that's why I put the 3 squares on all your paintings. Work. And it's not because I have to. It's because I just feel it's a completed thing of like, well, this is the Lord. This is everything I do is because of Him, and it's a blessing. Not, like even in the Pioneers, when I gave all my music to the Lord and I started just singing about his goodness, and that's all I wanted to do, So I got blessed with a Hot Rod Ford as a mascot, so I sang "Me and My Lord, My Hot Rod Ford," and then, and then all this joy, and then all of a sudden, not to get too cynical, but then somebody would come up and look at one part of it, or one out of 100, and say, "Oh, what did you do that for?" or whatever. And it's like, and then I get and it's like, "Whoa, shut up, punk!" That's my flesh. That's why I don't drink, and I'm a mouth, and so I've gone through all this stuff. So now I just try to stay, and I'm not like nothing against groovy people, but I kind of like, I love peace. Who wouldn't? I'm tired of. I was all jacked up on punk rock, not on just punk rock, but on my aggressive kind of way of trying to liberate people. Like I'm always for the underdog, but it's not to fight through that. Maybe there's a little bit of time to fight through that, but some of it is also like love through it, because sometimes you got to go, hey, leave that woman alone, right. Or hey, easy, take it easy, and stuff.
And that's what I think about. That's what I think I mean when I say you're always talking about the Lord without talking about the Lord. Oh. Your 3 squares on the paintings, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Here you are sitting behind a shirt you made that says Hot Rod Church. That's why I had to just snap a picture of it. You actually became like...
Well, that one, and that's kind of a crazy shirt because I built 3 cars with that shirt. That's why it's full of holes. So now it's kind of like, it's so funny. A friend of mine from Japan wanted me to make him one like that, and I only made one because I don't want to, there was only one Hot Rod Church striped shirt. Not that I'm like, oh, you can't have one, but I still get goofy in my head, like I don't want to make any money off that little thing. I can do, like, I don't know if I'd want to do Hot Rod Church shirts, so I made that one, and I made one for him because he's a neat guy.
Neat guy, yeah, a gift.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. We're going to stop right there with Mr. Brian Bent. BB as he's affectionately known. Hope you're enjoying that. It's a sacred thing, the relationship between a father and son. And we're going to get into it at a deeper level next week with Brian. So I hope you enjoyed this week. Peace out.